Guardian. We're right here at this Lifestyle Medicine Clinic. We have a great discovery and we have a good news to share with you. For all those out there that don't want the side effect toxicity of the medical world of medicine, of traditional style of treatment, there is a new hope and there's a new smart alternative choice made now available to you. Hey, what is this?
It's called lifestyle medicine and it's very evidence-based. It has science behind it. And Dr. Matsuo and Jody, who is his wife and a registered dietitian, started this clinic, and we're going to go inside and explore with them what the alternative options are and what their program offers, and we're thrilled and excited to have them here in Kona.
Yeah, hooray! And this is the Omni Lifestyle Clinic that brought into primary healthcare practice into mainstream, the first and ever exists, that also integrate Hawaiian healing tradition as well as the spirit of aloha. How wonderful! Let's go find out more.
All right. Let's do it.
The mission statement. Vision. Individuals and communities living ola lokahi, physically, mentally, and spiritually. Mission. Empower people to live life abundantly. A clinic that helps you realize that abundant health and happiness can be experienced by all. The Kukui Lifestyle Medicine Clinic is the fulfillment of a lifelong dream of myself and Jody to provide comprehensive health care for all individuals and families in the community. We desire to establish a practice where we could incorporate aloha in all that we do and share that aloha with others. A practice that provides culturally compassionate care. A practice that understands the integral connection between physical, mental, and spiritual health. A practice that recognizes the power of healthy lifestyle habits in bringing about positive health change. A practice that empowers patients to take charge of their health, teaching the skills and providing the support needed to promote lasting change. A practice that helps you realize that abundant health and happiness can be experienced by all.
Can you tell us how you guys started, or how you came up with this idea and how you started this whole program?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, the idea for the program actually started some years ago. I would say, it was maybe about 10, 12 years ago, and it started with the idea of wanting to be able to provide health care to people using natural means that we have around us. And so it's something that started off with, I guess, a dream or a vision, and we had the opportunity to bring it into reality, opening up our clinic in January of 2019.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So my understanding, Dr. Matsuo, you're an internal medicine doctor, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And so you were doing like regular primary care, traditional sort of medicine. And Jody, you're a registered dietitian.
Yes.
Okay. And so how have you found the difference between your traditional way of practice before and what you're doing right now? Just for yourself as well as for your patients.
Well, in medical school, they teach us about nutrition and how it can relate to healing. More and more they're introducing that into medical schools, but we weren't trained in nutrition.
Right.
And so I didn't know a lot of how I could treat my patients doing it a natural way.
Mm-hmm.
So what I learned is how to treat with medications and
Right.
surgeries.
Mm-hmm.
And then I met Jody.
Mm-hmm.
So Jody taught me a lot about nutrition. I initially she told me about, you can treat diabetes, you can help reverse it with a plant-based diet, and I didn't believe her, and I had to.
Like most of us doctors, we don't believe it till we see it.
Yeah.
We need to see the proof.
Yeah. So
was kind of skeptical when
I
she
was,
said, yeah.
So I had to look at the proof, I had to look at the evidence, and I read up on it, and I say, oh, that's true.
Yeah.
And I didn't learn about those type of things in medical school.
Right. So can you tell us a little bit about what kind of stuff you read up, like some examples maybe?
Oh, so I read, there's a book by Dr. Neil Barnard. So he's a medical doctor and researcher with the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. And he wrote a book about diabetes, but he talks about how diabetes, the causes of diabetes actually fat in the diet accumulating within the muscle cells. And from that, it makes it harder for insulin to put the sugar in the cell.
Correct.
And I didn't know that. I thought, we were taught, stay away from sugar.
Yeah.
You don't eat sugar if you have diabetes. But
Yeah.
it's actually stemming from the animal products,
Right.
the dairy products with saturated fat.
Right. Pretty eye-opening, I'm sure, when
Yes.
you read that, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So Jody, did it take a long time to convince him to come onto your side?
Actually, no, I should say not too long. Well, when I first started talking to him about it, and he didn't say he didn't believe me actually. So I just thought silence but agreement, right? So he didn't say anything, and he just listened and nodded his head, But I didn't realize at the time that because we were we started off in this journey, this vision together as friends, and so I didn't realize at the time that he had an interest in me. And then so maybe that was intentional. That's why he didn't say anything.
He thought it's better not to disagree. Right? I get it.
Yeah. So and actually he never openly disagreed with me for a while, and even after we got married and such, and it wasn't until maybe I would say at least a couple years after we got married that he told me he didn't believe me. So it was I guess after the fact, when you're in the clear,
Sure. Now, have you always been plant-based in your life, and Leon, and like how did that happen with you, with the two of you individually, and then when you got together?
Well, for me, it actually started many years ago. Like I was a ninth grader in high school. When I started becoming, it was a stepwise process for me. So it was becoming vegetarian, first, and doing that for a while before cutting out other things from my diet, and so it started in ninth grade in biology class, of all places. Usually you hear people with these stories about they had a health trauma or something that put them on that path. But for me, it was biology class, and we had a chapter on parasites.
Okay.
And we had a very good teacher, and she showed us a lot of pictures, and she had the jars with the parasites in them and all of that. And then at the end of the class, I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to eat meat. So it didn't start off with intentional thought of becoming vegetarian, just more like, I don't want to eat any meat right now, and I didn't have it wasn't like I'm going to do it for the rest of my life, I'm going to do it for the next month. It was just like, I just don't feel like eating anything. And then before I realized, a month had went by, and then I was thinking about it, and it dawned on me like, wow, I feel different. Like even at that age when people usually think, oh, they're young, they're going to burn it off, or it doesn't make a difference, they can eat whatever they want and stuff. And at that age, I felt more energy, I felt more alert, just overall, just my overall well-being was significantly improved. And then at that point it became a conscious thought, like, I wonder how long I can stick with this. So again, I didn't set a timeline. I just thought, let's see how it goes.
And how about you, Leon? Were you vegetarian or vegan before?
So we were raised Seventh-day Adventist, like the Blue Zones.
Yes.
One of the groups there, but we're raised here in Kona. My parents fed us plant-based food. We didn't eat any animal products.
Wow. Okay.
But then later on, when I got into the world, I started eating animal products again. Meat and all kind of things. And then I met Jody, and she was eating, she wasn't eating the meat, she was eating the chicken. And I felt bad whenever I'd we're eating somewhere and I ordered those type of things, and
Right.
but she didn't make me feel bad. I just decided to change my mind to stop
That's
again.
awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah. So you mentioned blue zones. Can you tell the audience a little bit more about that? Because that's not very commonly known, I think, out there. So if you could expound on that.
Okay, so the Blue Zones it started off as a research project that was done by National Geographic, where they wanted to find the regions of the world that had the greatest longevity, and on top of that, a good quality of life, for a number of years. So in other words, not living the last 20 years in a wheelchair or diabetic or whatever, but you're living a full life all the way to the end, and past 100 really. And so it started off as that. They identified 5 regions in the world, and only one in the U.S., which is Loma Linda, California. And Loma Linda, California is a Seventh-day Adventist community primarily, and so part of their lifestyle, part of their culture, is eating a vegetarian diet. And the Seventh-day Adventist denomination. That's one of the things that they promote among their congregation. But when they looked at all these 5 regions around the world, one of the commonalities, the biggest commonality, was that they all followed a plant-based diet.
Yeah, that's impressive. Tell us more about the clinic. What are the services you guys offer? How's it been? You said January of this year, right? So it's been about 8 months now. Yeah.
So we started off slow, and we've been getting a lot of referrals from some doctors who are closed or have closed their practices, which has been a blessing for us. Also, a lot of our patients come from word of mouth, so other patients telling other patients, and also there's some of my old patients from my previous clinic I worked at. They're also finding out I'm doing primary care again, and they're coming. But things that we offer, so it's primary care. Initially, when I see patients, it's initial visit, so it's more comprehensive. And then we also have subsequent appointments that we talked about, not only medications, but we also talk about lifestyle type of things that can help them in place of medications. So kind of more supportive in that way compared to just pushing the medicine and having them leave.
Right.
We also do the Complete Health Improvement Program, so it's a CHIP program, so it's a national program by Dr. Hans Deal. And it's a 9-week program, so it's twice a week we meet with the group, and it's 2 hours each visit. So it's done in this room. It's a group medical visit. So it's 2 hours each time, and the first hour is Jody doing a plant-based cooking class.
Oh wow!
So she's doing not only that, she's doing nutrition education. The patients have the opportunity to ask them any nutrition questions that they have, or any barriers that come up. Each time they meet, everyone shares how they're doing with their changing their lifestyle, especially if they're changing their diet. And then the second hour is we watch a video on the topic. So the CHIP program has videos on different topics. So the topics that they go over includes heart disease, high cholesterol, high blood pressure. We look at diabetes, weight. Also, we look at other things, so like changing your environment to help be more healthy. So there's more healthy environment to support your changing lifestyle. Also look at more of the mental health side, the stress, as well as how you can thrive as an individual, helping others. And then when the video is done, I lead a discussion on the topic for that day, and then I also add some extra education surrounding the topic.
Awesome. Sounds pretty comprehensive.
Yeah.
What about exercise portions of lifestyle medicine?
So we have a exercise specialist that comes in and does a group exercise here, right in this room. But it's really good because he can individualize it to each person's fitness level. And then we have hula. So hula, is a Hawaiian type of exercise, and that's really popular. The instructor was a professional hula dancer before. There's a study in 2017 by University of Hawaii that they looked at Native Hawaiians who had hypertension, and they did hula and actually improved their blood pressure.
Wow.
So something they traditionally would do, right?
News.
Yeah. And what other, do you guys do any other sort of for stress relief, anything in that arena as well?
Yeah, we do have a class. It's basically kind of like a gentle yoga. I mean, to sum it up, stretching, deep breathing.
Okay.
So we have that going on. We have ukulele class, and that is a stress reliever, because sometimes just finding something to do in music,
Yes.
is really helpful for that. So we do that. We have Hawaiian medicine workshops about once a quarter, and on different topics, and we get kupuna that is knowledgeable in the field of la'alapa'au or Hawaiian medicine, who will come and do something and teach people here how to use stuff in your backyard or things that you thought were weeds for medicine. So we have that, and then we have stop smoking class as well.
Wow, you guys have a really, really comprehensive program. Like, I mean, you're like hitting all the necessary pillars, right? Because a lot of people think, well, it's just about changing your diet, but there's so much more involved. I mean, when we talk lifestyle, it's a way more comprehensive way of looking at it, and bringing in all these other elements as well.
Yes.
So how is the community been responding to your clinic and your patients?
Well, I think it's been pretty positive. We've been getting a lot of people coming in, a lot of locals coming in. Even with what my husband was saying too, he said he as far as percentage wise, this is a larger percentage of local people he has served than when he was at his other clinic, and I think people appreciate. The comments that I've heard have been that people appreciate the Hawaiian culture. Integrated within it, because it's something familiar to them, and it's something that strikes at the heart for them. So recognizing that these cultural practices can be a part of their healthcare plan, and so people appreciate that. People also appreciate the idea, and this is something that I never had thought of until after people started commenting. They appreciate just having my husband and I working together, because they like that kind of like more intimate type of care, and communicate, the family approach. And so I've had a number of patients who come in and say, I'm so happy that you guys are husband and wife and working together, and so it's like they feel more comfortable, I guess. And then and along that lines, I've heard people say that for them they feel like family when they come in. It's like they come in and they're greeted, and they said they just have a really warm feeling coming in here, so it makes them feel comfortable. And I think lastly, but not least, is the idea that we're both from here. We're born and raised in Kona, and people seem to appreciate that, that we can understand where they're coming from. And and there have been studies that have shown greater adherence in care when you have a patient-provider concordance.
Absolutely.
When in other words, when the provider and patient are from that same cultural background, because they feel like, I understand you, you understand me. I feel comfortable talking to you, and vice versa. So they feel more accepted, they feel more at ease with the care, and because I'm sure you have heard, or maybe you experienced, people going to doctors and not feeling comfortable asking a question, or not saying, being ashamed to maybe say something that you practice, and your doctor is saying, what is that, or why are you doing that, and it's like you understand what they're saying and what they're feeling and why, and so I think all those factors just play into. Well, having been to multiple clinics and hospitals, this feels very homely. This feels very sort of warm and welcoming. I'm sure people walk in here and they don't really feel necessarily like they're going to go see their doctor. It doesn't have that cold clinic feeling. It's like it's like I'm going to go see a family member and they're going to tell me why my blood pressure is high or whatever, and what we can do about it. And I can totally see how that's a big attraction, if you will, to your practice versus what's offered out there.
So, and then the other thing I understand is that if you look at traditional Hawaiian cuisine, it really was a lot more plant-based in the past. Can you guys tell us a little bit more about that? Because that to me is fascinating, not knowing that much about the Hawaiian culture.
So Hawaiians traditionally had a plant-based diet. That of course that wasn't the term them or the term many of the Hawaiian scholars or culture practitioners use, but it was a study or a report that was done by Dr. Kukui Lifestyle. He estimated that 78% of a Hawaiian diet traditionally were from carbohydrates, which were from plants.
Right.
And then there was another 12% that was from protein, from fish and from shellfish and other things, and 10% that was fat, but that was naturally occurring fat that they found in plants. But it's so contrary to what people practice today and what people believe, that where's your protein, where's your protein, where's your protein. But it's really, it's like and the low carb phase, that you see,
the keto and all of this
paleo,
stuff. It's crazy out there.
So it was primarily a high carb, basically plant-based diet. So the cooking classes that we do are typically local recipes, or maybe local modified recipes that are acceptable, simple, and cheap. Because I think when you're telling people to change their diet, you are, they feel intimidated because, I don't recognize the ingredients on this recipes. I don't even know what this recipe is supposed to look like.
Right.
I never even heard of this recipe, or like these ingredients are too expensive, I can't buy them.
Sure.
And so plant-based eating should be easy, should be affordable, and should be familiar. And and that's one of the things we promote in our cooking classes.
Yeah. And I've come to their open house and they had the most delicious food here, really.
Wow.
And their potlucks, their monthly potlucks, right? You guys do that too.
Yes.
So Dr. Matsuo, tell us a little bit more about your patient, what changes have you seen in your patients who've incorporated what you guys have been doing for the last 8 months or so? Their number, their diabetes, their blood pressure, that kind of thing.
Well, before that, I just wanted to mention Native Hawaiians. Before, when Captain Cook came, there were descriptions of them, of the men being muscular and tall.
Yeah.
And women, their beauty were unsurpassed. If not, same as other beautiful women in the world. And as you see today, Native Hawaiians have the highest rates of disease, and as well as a high obesity rate as well.
Yeah.
So you can see really the difference with this traditional diet that they had before. It showed in their physique.
That's a really good point you make. Yeah.
So with our patients that are that we've been seeing, so going through a CHIP program, some of them they kind of attended, so we're just seeing them individually, but we see weight decreasing. There's medications that we have to decrease because the blood pressure is getting too low or their blood sugar is getting too low. Decreasing the amount, and the goal will be using lifestyle as the medicine.
Right.
We also see moods improve.
Yeah.
Because plant-based diet can help improve your mood.
Right.
And also there's this different, I guess the way that people think. There's a person in our class currently, and they're saying that before I thought I needed to eat the meat or get the protein, the meat, right? And I could never eat plants. His wife was really encouraging him to eat plants. So he said, no, I need the protein. So this is this belief that he had before, and he started a program. They changed the diet completely, and he says, oh, I got more energy now. He works a physical job, and the belief has changed.
Isn't that amazing? So when they try it for themselves and they see the results like that, you can't you have to believe it. There's no way that you can't believe it, right? Yeah. That's you guys are doing. I honestly, my heart's just swelling right now because you all know my story, and having worked in the medical field for so long and taking care of so many sick people, and to see that there's such a simple answer, if we could just get more people to understand that this really, really works, like that's it. And the way you got it set up, Jody and Leon, honestly, like bringing in that cultural aspect, I mean, I think that is so important, because that's what makes people be, more compliant, if you will. It's like they wanna, it's like, like you said, it's the whole Ohana is a family, and it's all just part of it, and there's no judgment. People can fall off, but you can always get back. We all make mistakes, we all go back to bad habits sometimes, and then you can always keep coming back. Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit more about, so this gets a little, like the more practical aspects of, because a lot of people a lot of docs I know want to do this, but there's all these payment issues, and how do you make that happen in terms of reimbursement from insurance, or, can you give us a little bit, like what kind of patients maybe can come see you guys, or, do they have to pay cash for chip? Can you give us a little bit more about, the reimbursement part, the cap?
Yeah, so, since we're primary care, we charge a regular fee, how a normal clinic would be charging, but we incorporate the lifestyle medicine part into it. So that's how we can charge for it, like a regular visit, but instead of, talking about medications and side effects and benefits of it, we talk about the lifestyle part. And, and we're still, taking care of the disease, helping to prevent it from getting worse, or managing it, and as well as reversing it. So this is a regular way that you would charge a regular patient visit. With the CHIP program, I also do so it's a group medical visit, and so I do an exam on each patient that comes in during each visit. We also monitor their blood pressure and their weight, because if there's any, with the changed lifestyle, they can have a lower blood pressure, and sometimes have to adjust the medications.
And you probably have to watch them really close, right? Because I understand the results can be very quick.
Yeah. We also have patients, so for those who have diabetes, I have them do their blood sugar log and bring it in each visit. So I monitor to see if they're getting low blood sugars and if we have to adjust any of their medications.
Right.
And then the other thing is not just watching a video, but then I'm also in front of the group and doing the education. So that's the face-to-face time.
Right.
So that's the way that we charge these.
So patients don't have to pay for the CHIP program. You're able to actually offer that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the face-to-face time is how we do it.
Sure.
And there's co-pays. If they have any co-pays, then they would have to pay the co-pay, because it's a medical visit.
Of course. So you take Medicare and you take some commercial insurances?
Mostly
like
everything,
HMSA
yes.
and things like that?
Everything mostly except Kaiser. So in the future, we hope to work on that one.
Okay, good. Yeah, that would be awesome. That would be all. That would be like an all-encompassing. So that's great, because, like Jody, you mentioned before, certainly in terms of the food, people say it's more expensive to eat plant-based or whatever. Can you talk a little bit more about, we know that it's a myth, can you give maybe our audience some tips about how it's actually affordable and to eat plant-based?
Well, like some of the tips that I give them is like, I tell them, if they're like generic brands of things, don't be afraid to buy generic, just compare the ingredients, and then if it's the same thing, you're saving sometimes a few bucks for the same product, the same amount. We talk about that. I give them a lot of tips on what stores to buy first. There's some, like, if you go to Walmart, you can get this over here. If you go to Target, you can do this. If I notice things are on sale, then I'll alert them. This is on sale at KTA, so go and buy this right now. So I do things like that. And then the things that I buy, like, I'll show them how to make use of frozen vegetables. Frozen vegetables is so much more affordable than fresh vegetables.
Right, and it's as nutritious, if not more nutritious, right?
Yeah. And then so, I'll say, you can use fresh broccoli, for example, we have it, but frozen broccoli is good. You can do this, instead. Or, sometimes, you may have heard of Bragg's liquid aminos, which is kind of like a soy sauce substitute, but that can be a little bit expensive. And I'll say just use the low sodium, soy sauce, because that's something that's more affordable. So, the recipes that we choose are purposely chosen to utilize stuff you have at home. So I have all the ingredients laid out on the table, and I'll say, look at all these. You probably have all of these right now.
Already.
Yeah, and you just may need to buy this, or you may need to buy that, and just like one or two things. So I'll say like stock up on frozen vegetables, and you always have that on hand.
Sure.
Or go to Costco and buy the case of diced tomatoes, and that
Right.
way you always, so just talking about things like that, and that has been a nice comment that people have shared, like, well, I mean, I've been intimidated before, or I fell off the wagon before, but you make it doable.
Yeah,
So it's easy.
And I think also pointing out that when you cut out dairy and meat, which we know is expensive,
Yeah.
especially in Hawaii, I don't know, I think a gallon of milk is $8. I don't know.
It's
I
quite
haven't bought one,
expensive,
so
yeah.
so you're actually, and that's the other thing to show them
Right.
is you're shifting your, where you were spending your money and not anymore, and more importantly, you're going to be spending less on your healthcare costs, right?
Right.
Like more and more as our healthcare costs are increasing, more and more it's being shifted on the consumer or the patient, right? There's higher copays, there's higher premiums, there's more deductibles and all of this. But if you stay healthy, in the long run, all those costs, your healthcare costs are going to come down, and you're going to have a better quality of life, right? Like
Yeah.
that's what we're all talking about here. It's not just about looking pretty or looking slim or having beautiful hair, which are all wonderful side effects, but it's about having the best possible quality of life that
Yes.
we can have,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So tell us a little bit more about that. Like, does that come out in your, when you're talking to patients and stuff? How do they, does it go cling, in their mind? Because they're not thinking that way, right? A lot of them.
They did,
Yeah.
yeah. But you can,
Yeah, and that's something we point out because on our videos, and sometimes we'll show pictures on our screen of just like what is going on inside your arteries. Like a real shot or a real short video of what a surgery, or a procedure that's being done. And and I'll give I'll draw examples because many people can identify with real life situations. So I'll draw examples like there was this athlete in the news. And he was, he died. 90% of his arteries were blocked. He was 26 years old.
Oh my God. Wow.
And look at him, what he looked like on the outside. Nobody would guess that he had these clogging of the arteries.
Right.
And, so what we try to emphasize to them is that, weight is one part of a big picture.
Right.
Don't base your whole health on whether or not you're in a healthy weight
Exactly.
or whether something is working based on that weight. Look at the whole entire picture. And so we really make a point to emphasize that. And people will come into it, and we'll hear new things all the time. Like, somebody said, my pores are clearer,
Yeah.
or my hair seems shinier,
Yeah.
like you mentioned, or, I used to have to take depression meds every day, and I don't
Yeah.
anymore,
Yeah.
and so, it's always nice with people. We spend a lot of time during our classes sharing, and I think people really appreciate that part too, because they get the support in sharing and hearing from one another. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I'm happy you mentioned that because my son, that's how I got him to cut out dairy because he kind of had like that mucus, he'd be like
Yeah.
constantly like clearing his throat, and he had acne, mostly on his back, and I was like, and he doesn't drink milk, he like drinks coffee black, and then he was using milk for like cereal or whatever. I'm like, you're not going to know even the taste difference, just go to almond milk or soy milk. And he switched and it all like totally disappeared. And so
Yeah.
now he's a believer. So yeah, you're right. So there's these other things that even we fail to mention, but then
Yeah.
they come back and tell you this, right? Like,
Yeah.
my mood's better, or
Yeah.
I have more energy. I think
Yeah.
I'm gonna do the Ironman this year.
If I have a cancer patient, stage 4, cancer love a lot of sugars. If they have cancer stage 4, what do
Yeah.
you recommend?
I really emphasize a balanced diet, and we talk about reducing inflammation. We emphasize the importance of fresh vegetables and fruits. So talking about ways to incorporate that a lot. Like so sometimes with cancer in your treatment, you don't have much of an appetite, or it's just hard to cook sometimes. So make smoothies and teach them how to make a green smoothie, and how to add some things that will help with lowering inflammation and building up your immune system, like maybe throwing some flax seeds in it. You can, some people will even put like tofu in their smoothie, for the extra protein. And you can use that instead of, because sometimes the doctor or whoever will tell them you need more protein, so whey powder, the whey protein or the casein and stuff, which is not plant-based.
Not good.
Yeah, it's from dairy.
Right.
So I give them ideas on how to go with, and I think with cancer, what I've noticed in the patients that I've counseled with, each person handles it so differently. And so just kind of going with what they do, like, I just don't have an appetite, or my stomach can't handle, I'm having a lot of nausea, vomiting. So then tailoring the recommendations based on that. But definitely encouraging a lot of fruits and a lot of veggies, and helping them to find ways to put it in what they're already eating, or what they have the appetite for. Because sometimes you don't feel like eating certain types of foods, and and whatever. And
it's interesting
balance.
you brought up cancer, because I just recently, somebody I work with was diagnosed with cancer, and her oncologist said avoid fresh fruits and vegetables. And I think that's coming from that idea of immunosuppression, and that fruits and vegetables might have some bacteria or virus or fungal that might. That's such an old myth, though.
Yes,
and I just looked at her and I was like, no, like this is anti-inflammatory, right? Like this is going to help, and I guess it also makes your chemo work better in a way, and they're able to have almost less side effects.
Yes.
So just because you have I guess the point we're trying to make is, just because you have stage 4 cancer doesn't mean that the diet is not going to make a difference, in their outcome and how they feel and how they actually handle the cancer.
Also, meats, animal products, they have saturated fat, and that causes inflammation.
Sure.
And how you can get cancer from those type of things is inflammation. So this is chronic inflammation.
Right.
Causes damage to our DNA, and then cells start dividing without stopping. And not only that, chronic inflammation promotes blood vessel growth into the tumors.
So it's actually feeding the tumor and making it bigger.
Yeah.
So they have these things called TMAO and carnitine, and that is implicated. And I understand that processed meat is considered a class 1 carcinogen by the WHO, right?
Yes.
It's up there with arsenic and tobacco.
Yes.
Yeah. So all this bacon and ham and
Yeah.
So
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, I just wanted to mention that sometimes too, I think the challenge we find is patients who come here, their doctors already told them what to eat.
Yes.
So they already have a preconceived idea on what it should be. And when I speak to them or counsel them, and then it's like they hear me, but then my doctor told me this and this and this, and it's like they still have that degree of doubt because their doctor, a lot of people put so much. They put their doctor on a pedestal. They're the gold standard. Whatever they say is gold. So it's important. I think doctors have so much power to change that.
To influence how people
put them on the
which means
path.
more doctors should go to more conferences than nutrition days and learn about it, because that's how I learned about it. So anyway, this might be a side, but the PCRN that we talked about, Dr. Neil Barnard, at least in the state of Washington, D.C., they're working on making it mandatory that all doctors should have at least 2 hours of CME that's devoted to nutrition. So I think it's a bill that's being processed or whatever. So they're learning. I mean, our patients seem to know more than us sometimes. They come to us with these Google studies or whatever, and you're like, I don't know what you're talking about. But it's so important, as you mentioned, Jody, that doctors need to know that, because I've even heard that there are physicians who are prescribing the keto diet to their diabetics. And it's, because everybody wants weight loss and they want it rapid, they want it right away, but I shouldn't say nobody, but they're not thinking about the long term, and we're talking long term health. This is, I think we want to emphasize that here. So can you guys speak to that?
There is weight loss with the ketogenic diets, but there did studies on a low carb diet in over a year's time. There's no difference with other diets as well with weight loss.
Right. So it comes back.
Gain it back. Yeah. There's also the saturated fat from the animal products. What we worry about is atherosclerosis.
Right.
With a lot of things, when we look at cholesterol, when we talk about diabetes, and all of those things can cause damage to the inner lining of your blood vessel.
Yeah.
And that's where cholesterol gets in there and starts clogging it. So it can lead to a heart attack or stroke, or you can affect your memory, different things. But what the ketogenic diet does, it causes endothelial dysfunction. That's the cells that's lining the blood vessels. And when those cells are like a barrier, kind of protects things from getting in, especially the bad cholesterol, LDL. So when there's damage, and that's from the ketogenic diet, from the inflammation, there's endothelial dysfunction, and that's where cholesterol gets in there. So you may lose weight now, but over time you're starting to clog the arteries and get a heart attack later on.
Right.
And also that saturated fat, again, we talked about with diabetes. So you can lose weight with it, and it can help with diabetes, but it's causing a lot of insulin resistance. So if you add the carbs back into your diet, you're gonna start having high blood sugars again.
Right. So it's not just that it's not effective in the long term, it could potentially be dangerous too,
Yes.
right, for your
Yes.
health. Yeah.
In some patients, you have LDL being really high with a ketogenic diet.
Yeah, that we know is a marker for potential heart disease and stuff like that. Wow. So what else would you like to tell the public in terms of what you guys have learned and, about your clinic, just anything, whatever comes to mind?
I just wanted to say something about lifestyle medicine. So that's what I primarily is my passion, lifestyle medicine. So lifestyle medicine involves using lifestyle as medicine. So it's not just the diet, but the diet is very important. So, a whole foods, plant-based diet, but it's looking at other aspects of your health. So other things that can contribute to heart disease is inadequate sleep. So getting enough sleep is important, 7 to 8 hours a night. Stress is another risk factor for heart disease and damaging that lining again.
Absolutely.
So learning strategies to decrease the stress if you cannot get rid of the stressors. You also want to make sure you're drinking enough water. So water is also important, so you don't feel lightheaded, and you're lubricating your joints. You want to get sun. Sun is also important. It helps us with getting vitamin D.
That's right.
It also helps with our mood, helps secrete serotonin, the feel-good chemical in our brain. Exercise is very important as well. So not only aerobic exercise, but also weightlifting or resistance training.
Right.
Because the studies show that having muscle uses fat as energy, so you burn fat that way. It decreases cholesterol, LDL cholesterol. Makes it easier for insulin to put the sugar in the cell, so it decreases insulin resistance, so it helps with diabetes. Women live longer if they have more muscle. And being loved is also important. Dr. Dean Ornish talks about being loved and how it can affect your health. Having healthy relationships is also important because that can contribute to stress and some other things. For here, we also believe in a whole person health. So not only physical health, but mental health is important, as well as spiritual health. We believe in as a whole person health. And that's what the World Health Organization also encompasses, those different parts for optimal health.
Yeah.
For lifestyle medicine, with traditional medicine, conventional medicine, what we normally are trained for is to treat the risk factor. The risk factor for heart disease would be high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes. So we just use medicines to target those things. But you're not taking the patient as a whole, in which and what's causing those problems. So what's causing the high blood pressure, what's causing the high cholesterol. And with lifestyle medicine, we dive deeper into the causes of the disease.
Right, you're basically getting to the root of the problem.
Root of the disease, yes.
Yeah.
And that's what lifestyle medicine, with all of these things I talked about, those things can help treat the root of the problem.
Sure.
Instead of this managing the disease, using medicine to manage disease, because the medicine doesn't help reverse disease or get rid of it. But the lifestyle medicine does get rid of it. You can manage it, you can help reverse it, you can prevent it.
Yeah.
And with doctors, we need patients to come in. So you prescribe the medicine, come back in, we refill the medicine. So let's maintain your disease.
Yeah.
Let's keep you like this. That's what in pharmaceutical companies are making money on that. Everybody's making money on the bottom line on the patient.
Yeah.
Keeping them with disease.
Right.
So lifestyle medicine is helping them to actually putting them into the role of being their own, being active in their health.
Right.
They're not
Empowering
passive,
themselves.
empowering them,
Yeah.
So that's what I like about lifestyle medicine.
Yeah.
It puts them back in control, and using things that's it's natural.
Yeah, yeah. So quickly, I wanted to talk about supplements because there are some people out there who believe that you don't get all your nutrients by eating this way. Can you talk a little bit more about that? I mean, I know that vitamin B12 is the only supplement we need, but can you kind of tell us why and what you tell your patients when they ask about supplements?
Supplements I think should be treated like medicine. It's not something that you're just going to take just because, people will just, be taking 10 different supplements, each with for a different reason. But, supplements, they're not the same as food.
Right.
So you're not comparing apples to apples. You're not getting the same product. There is so much natural chemicals, or what they term phytonutrients, in foods, fiber and minerals that you cannot put in a pill. And so you're missing out on all those, I don't think it would be exaggerating to say hundreds of additional benefits you would get from the food that you could from the pill.
Sure.
So there is that. And one thing I think people don't realize too is that supplements are not regulated.
Mm-hmm.
So there is no regulation in terms of if it's made under safe conditions or if it actually is what it is. There have been studies that have shown that supplements are not what the bottle claims it to be, or is not in the dose the bottle claims it to be. The sources in which they grow it, I remember, when we were in school, and one thing when we were studying supplements, and our professor at the time, he told us, he said, these things could be grown in soil with pesticide runoff, or harvested from the ocean that has pollution in it, and then you're putting them in a concentrated form. You're processing it, which also changes the chemical structure of it,
Right.
which changes the way your body treats it.
Mm-hmm.
So your body is not going to treat it the same way as it would if you got that food naturally.
Sure.
And there are certain things that can build up in your body to toxic levels,
Mhm.
because there have people who have overdosed or who've had adverse health effects from taking too much supplements.
Mhm.
So for our family personally, we have supplements in the house, but they're used as medicine. If somebody gets sick or you feel like you're getting sick, then you should take this, and this.
Mhm.
If you're have this other thing, then this and this, and we just kind of keep some basic ones in there. And usually, what I tell people is if you feel like as you're transitioning in your diet from a regular standard diet to like a plant-based diet, if you feel like you're not getting enough variety,
Mhm.
then a multivitamin is good insurance.
Mhm.
It's good insurance to help you in that transition so that you can ensure you're getting the nutrients that you need until you transition to a point where you're incorporating all the different food groups, fruits and vegetables and all that thing, and
Mhm.
and then you won't necessarily need it.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's another money-saving tip right there. If you
Yes.
stop buying all these supplements, which
Yes.
are A, not helpful, B, potentially toxic,
Yeah.
you buy more greens, go buy spinach with that, right? Or
Right.
kale with that.
Yes.
So it's all about, again, talking, because I get it, it is more expensive. Like if you go and buy a salad, it is more expensive than getting a burger at McDonald's. And we've talked about how that's a big piece that needs to change too.
Right.
Our government and the USDA and all these people who are in charge need to stop subsidizing
Yes.
Right.
the meat and
Yes.
dairy industry and shift that monies to make it more affordable and this food deserts in this country where they literally cannot get fresh fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
So that's another challenge. I think as the public, we need to keep speaking out
Yeah.
and talking about it and forcing our elected officials that these are our priorities. Like but there's farmers markets and there's I understand in Hawaii you can use food stamps and there's a SNAP program at the farmers markets, correct? So that you can make it more affordable.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that, taking supplements is so easy to do.
Yeah.
Right? And it is like taking medicine, it's so easy to do. And it's, if you want, if you like that, not putting much into your own health is something that, a number of patients like doing.
Yeah.
But lifestyle medicine is about being more active in your health, and it takes a lot of changes, not small changes, large changes.
Yes.
So instead of just taking a pill and go about your day,
Right.
it's different.
Right.
But
Well, you need to be motivated and need to be really
motivation.
invested in your own health, I think.
Yes.
But I think when you have programs like what you guys have, it sounds like other than pretty much going to their house and doing everything for them,
Yeah.
like you're giving them all the tips and tools and like literally making it so easy for them to do it. You know, all they need to do is come here and learn how to do it, and they have the group support in addition to the support that you guys offer and your staff offers. So I mean, it cannot be easier than that, right? It's like I mean, and every clinic, we hope, right, Leon, that we hope every primary clinic in the country eventually is this model, you know, where they can, you know, they're culturally appropriate, but they're also really focusing more on not prescribing the fifth drug, or, you know, but instead saying, where are you at in your life? You know, how much are you sleeping? How much are you moving? You know, are you incorporating physical activity in your day-to-day life? You know, and you know, everybody's always too busy, right? Well, I have a 12-hour job, but even people who do that, we know if they're motivated, we'll find time. You know, what is your priorities in life? You know, and do you want to be around for your children and your grandchildren, and teach them the good habits, right? Because our kids, they learn by watching what we do, but not what we tell them, right?
Yes.
So being a good model for your family too.
Yes.
But I'm sure you guys face that where maybe the patient's motivated, but then their family is not on board. What kind of tips do you guys give them when they say, well, I'm willing to do it, but you know, my husband still wants his meat or whatever?
Well, you know, when we have our chip class, we have sharing. We start off, you know, like with sharing it with each other, and that comes up often, and people share about their personal struggles or challenges, or share successes, you know, and you know, that's a common thing to hear. But you know, they listen to other people and they get inspired and they get motivated. And what I emphasize to them too is that you may be that role model that your family needs, that your spouse needs, and whatever, and they may not admit it, they may not even realize it at this point. But the longer you do it, and when they see the changes in you, then they may reach a point where they're like, maybe I should do that too. You know? And so I said, so keep it up, because you're not just doing this for yourself, you're doing it with everybody you come into contact with, and you never know, you know, especially with social media.
Yes.
And nowadays, I mean, I had a patient who she did all her sharing through social, like all she did was she took pictures of her food, her meals, and posted on social media. And then we've had people who have called in and said, I saw so-and-so's post and that inspired me.
Isn't that amazing?
And so you never know who you're reaching, or you know, I said you might be sitting in a restaurant deciding what to eat, and somebody's looking at you and thinking like, wow, if they can do that, I can do that.
Yeah.
You know, they can order the salad, I can order the salad, or whatever the case may be. So you know, we just keep encouraging them, and I think another thing that maybe we didn't mention before was that we do have maintenance and support groups. Because as with many programs, people are really motivated during the program, and then once the program ends and everybody gets back on to their usual way of doing things, then they slowly lose momentum and, you know, go back to old habits. So we offer maintenance and support groups that we talk about from the beginning, so that when you guys are done, we have this group, and you know, you guys can come to it, and you know, we try to make it at convenient times and tailor it to their interests, and you know, speak to, and I usually ask each class, you know, that we go through, because the classes run in 9-week sessions, and you know, so I will tell them, tell me what it is you guys will want to learn, what will support you beyond this, and you know, I listen to them and try to incorporate. Okay, next maintenance group, we're going to have this. So, you know, they know. And then there's no excuse. You know, technically, but you know,
so
not.
It's totally personalized to the feedback you get from them.
And there are common themes, you know, within every group. So, you know, some of the stuff we already have going on. So we tell them, well, that's funny you mentioned it, because we're doing exactly that, you know. And the support groups include, so we have 4 support groups per month. 2 groups in the morning, 2 groups in the evening. And usually the people who come to our evening classes will stick to the evening support groups, the morning ones stick to the morning ones. So at the first morning and the first evening support group, Dr. Matsuo and I are there together. And that's also their time to ask questions, you know, whatever you want. We're both here at the same time, you know, to support you, and then we'll do a cooking demonstration or something. And then in our second support group, we have a health coach who is also on board. So the health coach, not many people are familiar, but it's basically what it sounds like. You know, someone who can help coach you and guide you through the challenges. Like, okay, well, how do you feel about this? Or how can we overcome it next time? And so the health coach and I will be teaming up together so that, we start off with talking about nutrition, and then, which is usually one of the most common things people struggle with, and then transition to the health coach who will then be talking about how can we overcome that. So, yeah. And that's covered by insurance as well.
Oh, wow. And I understand HMSA has some pretty generous coverage for programs like this, because I think insurance companies are starting to learn that if they put the money up front now, then they're not having to pay for that $30,000, $50,000, $60,000 bypass surgery, or $100,000, who knows how much it costs if you have a massive stroke and then you're in a nursing home, and and so it's good to invest that money in programs like this, where you can potentially avoid the catastrophic outcome that's going to cost so much more. And not just in terms of financial terms, in terms of emotional terms. I mean, how it affects my father had a stroke, and I know how much it affected my family. He had a first stroke, and how much that affected, and the second stroke took his life when he was 70. And he was eating everything, he was diabetic, hypertensive, and he died at 70, which was young, So now I look back and I think, wow, if we had a doctor like Dr. Matsuo, he might still be alive telling me what to do with my life,
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, before we end this program, I would like to give a lot of praise to you, Jody and Dr. Matsuo.
Yes.
You're so wonderful. Having
you
this
guys are
extraordinary, very unusual, first and ever lifestyle clinic that integrate the Hawaiian traditional culture and the aloha spirit.
Yes.
And I just want to praise you. Even I was shocked to find out my friend Maggie, for 40 years, she never was a primary care doctor. And only recently, I was shocked. She said she loved her primary care doctor. And here it is, you. She never won one. And she is now found her way to you. So, for all those senior out there, now I want you to know, I hope you are listening and the sharing that we have over here, we want you to know there is a better way. And here, that's what lifestyle medicine offers you. And learn the guidance, the skill, the knowledge, and get educated and trained from you so they could share more to their family. And above all, may you expand. May you become even greater, bigger, open more.
Take over this whole shopping area.
Expand your dream just like Jody wanted. One day to have a vacant restaurant, vacant bakery right next to you to serve the public. May many charity organizations come to support your great cause.
So I think you guys are just absolutely wonderful. You guys are my heroes.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you for my wonderful, beautiful show host here, my co-host. She's done a beautiful job in this interview. And thank you so much for all of you are watching our shows. And if you find something valuable, please pass on.